This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim. We continue the Orchos Chaim of the Rosh. We had a little half-6, so let's get right back into it. We're up to Ois Samach Beis. Al tachzik ka'ascha im chavercha yoim echad. Do not maintain your anger with your friend for one day. In other words, if you're in some kind of disagreement with your friend, do not let it persist past that day. V'tichna lefanav. Humble yourself before him. Levakesh mimenu mechila. To ask him for mechila koidem. Before. So, the first point the Rosh is making is do not maintain your anger with your friend for an entire day. You're angry at your friend, he did something against you, so don't let go of the anger. After a day, let go of it. But then the Rosh adds, you should humble yourself before him to ask him for mechila. Why should you ask him for mechila if he was the one who hurt you? What does the Rosh mean exactly? So Reb Chaim Kanievsky cites the Gemara in Megillah Daf Chavches, that one of the Amoram said, I did not bring up to my bed the curse of my friend, like Mar Zutra, that when he would go to sleep, he would say, I forgive anyone who pained me. So that indicates that you should be moichel someone who pains you. But that doesn't mean you should ask him for mechila. That means you should be moichel him. Where does the Rosh get? You should ask him for mechila. Then the Reb Chaim Kanievsky cites a Gemara in Yuma on Daf Pei Zayin, that Rav had a matter with the butcher. Rav had a disagreement with the butcher. The butcher did not come ask Rav for mechila on Erev Yom Kippur. So Rav said, I'll go be mefayes the butcher. So this implies that the Reb Chaim Kanievsky is explaining the Rosh, that it's talking about the fact that Reb Chaim Kanievsky quotes that Gemara in Yuma implies that he understands that the case of the Rosh is where the other person hurt you, like in the case of Rav, and Midas Chasidus is that you shouldn't hold on to the anger for more than a day, and you should be moichel him. But then the question is, so what does the Rosh mean? You should ask him for mechila. Why should you ask him for mechila? Rav didn't ask the person for mechila, but rather he just made himself available that the other person should ask him for mechila. In other words, that's a pretty strong question. The Reb Chaim Kanievsky says the source of this comment of the Rosh is the practice of Rav, that somebody insulted Rav, so Rav made himself available so that person could ask him for mechila, but nowhere do we find that Rav asked the butcher for mechila. But maybe you would have said, maybe it's Midas Chasidus to go out of your way, that even though somebody harmed you, you should ask them for mechila. Maybe that would be Midas Chasidus, to ask the person for mechila. And the only thing is, Rav didn't do that. So maybe there's a madrega beyond Rav that the Rosh is mentioning, that even though Rav only made himself available for the person to ask him for mechila, you should ask them for mechila. And, the case could be made that's a very good practice. Let's say, especially in marriage. A person will say, what? She insulted me. She's in the wrong. She has to come to ask me for mechila. Say, maybe I'll make myself available to allow her to ask me for mechila, or vice versa. But that I should tell her, okay, please be moichel me. I'm not the one who did anything wrong. She did. So maybe the Rosh is saying that it's a good practice that even though the other person is in the wrong, act as if you're in the wrong to promote peace in order to Laman HaShalom. Rav Goldberg suggests that this is not what the Rosh is speaking about. It's talking about two people that got into a disagreement. They both think the other person is at fault. Midas Chasidus is not to maintain your anger for the whole day. You should make shalom. And Midas Chasidus is you be the one to ask them for mechila. And the Tosfos Yom Tov in his Targum explains in this fashion. Now Rabbeinu Yoina this is cited by the Perush Orach Yesharim, says in the Sefer Hayira, don't go to sleep at night when you have a katata with someone, but be maratza him until he's appeased. And even if he sinned to you, you should ask, even if he's at fault, you should be mefayis him. And don't say, he sinned to me, he should be mefayis me. No. Force your yetzer and go to him so that you should not be arrogant. Now, Rabbeinu Yonah doesn't say you should ask him for mechila, but rather you should be mefayis him. And we find by Moshe Rabbeinu, it says Moshe sent to call Dasan va'aviram. Rashi says, we see from here, in machzikim b'machloikes, that Moshe went after them to make shalom, but we don't find Moshe ask them for mechila. And therefore, Reb Goldberg says it's mistaber that we're talking about a case where, so to speak, two people get into some kind of argument, and therefore you should be mavater, you be the one to ask the other person for mechila. And basically, Reb Goldberg says this is a very advisable and admirable and noble quality in marriage, namely that if you come to some kind of difference in opinion or chilukei deos, you should try not to maintain anger even for one day, and you be the one to ask them for mechila in order to sort of ensure that this matzav does not continue for more than a day. Okay, Rabbi, say thank you everybody for joining us. Look forward to seeing you again Monday, tonight, Shir 8:30 on the Mizbeach HaKetoras. Looking forward to seeing everyone. Bracha v'hatzlacha. Hi, Yaakov. What's doing? Hi.
So
good. Good. Nice to see you. Kol tov. Bye-bye.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.